Inventory across the state of Vermont and here in Chittenden County remains extremely low, which is causing a confusing housing market for many home buyers and sellers out there. Some listings are selling for well over list price with multiple offers, right? The most recent I heard was a home in Colchester listed around 450,000. They got 9 offers on the property, sold for well above list price. And then there's other homes that hit the market and they sit for 50, 60 days and nobody seems to want them. So this is a very confusing market to navigate, and I think what makes it even more confusing is how little inventory there is out there on the market, right? Rates are starting to come down a little bit. Rates are around the 6.5% range, depending on where you go, but inventory is extremely low. We're at all-time lows for inventory. We basically stayed there since the pandemic, and it's creating a really confusing market. So we're going to look at the stats, talk about what's going on in the housing market, and help you, whether you're a home buyer or a home seller, navigate this market. But first, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. All of my contact information is in the description. So if you have any real estate needs, reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help you. And let's get right into the video here. So this we're going to take a look at two different stats here. These are the stats for all of Vermont, this page right here. So this is all counties, single family homes. And the reason why we do just single family homes when we're talking about the entire state of Vermont is because there's a lot of condos that are in ski towns and don't do a good representation at depicting what's going on in the year-round market if you're a year-round buyer or seller out there. If you're a seasonal buyer or seller, again, reach out to me directly. We'd be happy to help you navigate that market as well. But when we take a look at the year-round market, right, we see this dip in median sales price, and this is typical. This is something we saw last year. We see it dip down to 323 from a peak of around 400. Now we're down to around 380 from a peak of around 425 across the entire state of Vermont. This has more to do with what the types of homes that are hitting the market as opposed to actual home prices coming down. And I think a great illustration of why home prices aren't coming down across the state of Vermont is that home in Colchester that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, right? If home prices were to fall, if home prices start to come down a little bit, then there's buyers out there. There's buyers waiting on the sidelines. Maybe people who made it a New Year's resolution to purchase a property, or people who are just waiting for a good deal, looking for a property that is well maintained, is relatively affordable, and as soon as they see that, they're going to jump into the market and try to get out there and make an offer. And that's what I saw in Colchester. The buyers that I actually showed that property to are buyers of mine who are actively looking. They've been actively looking for a few years now, but they haven't been actively submitting offers. They were kind of taking a step back, taking a step away from the market, letting things cool off, waiting for a home that, in their words, looked like it met value, looked like, okay, this is a good home, it's well maintained, and it's not $600,000. It's not something that they couldn't afford. So that's what brought them into the market, into taking a look at that property. But 9 other people thought that that property was a good fit and they put their best foot forward when making that offer. So my point is that if home prices start to drop, there's people out there who are going to stop that median sales price and stop home prices in general from completely collapsing, right? If this home seller, even if they wanted to sell it for 460, they have 9 people out there who are telling them, no, we'll pay 500 for it, or whatever it ends up going under contract for. So that's just a little anecdote about what is going on with home prices in general. But as you can see, so seasonal dip here in home prices and inventory, which is where I've been focusing on, what I've been focusing on in this video. So the state of Vermont, we're at 950 homes for the entire state, where our typical low pre-COVID was around 4,000 homes. So our active inventory is about a quarter of what it was pre-pandemic. Now we're up about 2% from last year, but still very, very low inventory, right? There's not many sellers out there who want to sell their home. And so, sure, maybe there's less buyers than there were when there were 3% rates, but there's still more buyers than there are sellers right here. And the problem gets even worse as we look at Chittenden County. You can see here, Chittenden County this year, we didn't even experience that seasonal dip in median sales price. Now, that's not to say that next month we won't experience that dip. Again, it's very variable this time of year because there are so many less listings in general during these winter months. But when we take a look at the active inventory here, we can see that there's 126 homes on the market here in Chittenden County in December of 2023. Now, Chittenden County has a population of around 170,000 people. and there's only 126 homes. Now, these are single family homes and condos available for this population to buy. We're just massively undersupplied with the amount of inventory out there, and that's part of the reason why you'll look at a home and you'll say, wow, how can the sellers charge that much for the home? And maybe it's overpriced, but the sellers are sitting around and they're waiting for the buyer that's going to come by and pay that price. And so again, if you're a seller out there, I've talked about this many times. What you want to do as a seller is you want to have the best home for your price range. So, if you have an $800,000 home or a home that you want to get $800,000 for, you want to take a look at all the other homes that are in that price range and try to make yourself the most competitive option out of those properties. And if you can't make yourself the most competitive option out of those in that price range, then your solution might be to drop your price a little bit, and then you're going to get multiple offers and get the number that you are looking for potentially. Now, that's not to say that every home is going to get multiple offers out here, but if you take a look at what happened in Colchester over this past weekend, that is a viable option for selling your property. Now, if you're a buyer out there and you're looking at these homes, it's really important to obviously, one, understand what you're buying. Where does that home fall into the other homes in this price range that are likely to hit the market moving into the future? But also, what is the seller's motivation behind selling? Because there's a lot of sellers out there right now. I just was working with a buyer who we submitted an offer on a property. We gave the seller a week or maybe even a little longer to make their decision on their offer. And the seller was just kind of beating around the bush. And then a few days later, they ended up accepting another offer after we had pulled ours back because we weren't making any progress. So, I can only speculate with what was going on with those sellers. They didn't give us a whole lot of feedback, but my guess is that we were a little bit under list price, right? The home had been on the market for a couple weeks. We went in a little bit under list price. We were going to try to negotiate with them. The sellers didn't even counter us. They didn't give us any feedback. They didn't, it almost felt like they didn't want to work with us. And I don't know if that was because of price or not, but it definitely could have been. So if you're a buyer out there and you're working and you see a home that's been on the market for quite some time and you try to negotiate, I do think that's a viable option for you. And I think you should always go for that. But just know that there's some buyers or there's some sellers out there who are putting their home on the market. They have their list price and they're sitting firm at that list price. They're taking a look at the inventory on the market saying, look, there's nothing else out there for people to buy. If people want to purchase my home, they're going to have to pay this price for it. And eventually, some people do get their price. Of course, some homes won't sell if their price is too high, but a lot of these people are getting the price that they are asking for. So that's another thing to know. I know I've talked about on this channel a lot that targeting homes that have sat on the market for a little while is a great opportunity for you as a buyer to offer under list price and try to negotiate a little bit on price, even in this tight inventory market. But just something to know as you're utilizing the strategy and as you're out there submitting these offers, that it doesn't necessarily mean that the seller is going to be negotiable, because there's so little inventory out there that some sellers are still staying firm. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you folks watching this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you're out there looking here in the state of Vermont. What have your experiences been? Leave me a comment. Let me know. And of course, if you'd like any help with real estate, reach out to me directly. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video.